Here is that average annual value list, as mentioned, just behind Aaron Rodgers, just ahead of Deshaun Watson. The wide receiver market experienced a boon this offseason, but the deals that Watson and Murray got will surely be the marker used by other young quarterbacks looking for new deals very soon. And in terms of those young quarterbacks, here's a list of some of those who will be looking to hit that upper tier or even sit atop the summit. Lamar Jackson hasn't signed a long-term extension yet, playing out his fifth-year option with the Baltimore Ravens at $23 million. Justin Herbert says he hasn't discussed an extension with the Chargers yet, but given how his first 2 seasons have gone, his deal will likely reset the market. Joe Burrow in that same conversation took the Bengals, of course, to the Super Bowl in the same boat as Herbert going into his 3rd season. The thought is that whichever of those 2 signs first will set the market for the other. All right, let's get into what those deals might look like with 2 guys who've had plenty of those conversations. Former Miami and Minnesota General Manager Rick Spielman and former multiple NFL Executive of the Year winner Scott Pioli. Gentlemen, when it comes to these deals that we're looking at, Lamar Jackson, he has to be rubbing his hands together. Rick, how do you approach this as an executive ahead of training camp?
Yeah, this is something unique because Lamar Jackson does not have an agent. Now, I know when he's seen Kyle Murray's deal come in, I think it's going to come down to a lot of what the guaranteed money is because that's the most important part of it. And I know when we've worked on deals, we always looked at, and what the agent was most interested in, if it's a 5-year deal, what is the cash flow in the first 3 years? Because that's usually what's going to determine what type of contract and how satisfied they are with their contract. A lot of times, those out years may have inflated numbers but aren't guaranteed to help make the average look bigger than it would probably be. But it also forces a team to either renegotiate that contract, extend that player, or if there's no guaranteed money in the out years, they can go ahead and release that player or trade him.
Yeah, and we see that happen, time and time again. And there's this reaction right now to $40 million or $40+ million. He's now the 8th quarterback in that $40 million club. And to me, this isn't that outrageous because we've just gotten to a point where this is the cost of doing business for a starting quarterback. And we watched Kyler go through this dance in the offseason. We watched the theater, the temper tantrum or the alleged temper tantrum. And we knew this deal was going to get worked out because here's the problem in the NFL. It comes down to supply and demand. It's very simple economics. And if you don't sign the player at whatever the market value is, whether you like the market value or not, you have to pay this price. So the fact is they paid this for Kyler Murray. And, Lamar Jackson is sitting back very intentionally knowing that whatever he signs today, it could be more money tomorrow. So he's just sitting tight, waiting, counting. He's a very confident player, and he should be, knowing that once this season is over or at some point in time, whatever the last deal was, his deal is likely to be better.
Now, when we're talking about some of these young quarterbacks, Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert drafted in the same year. They will have their deals come up at the same time. As an executive, Scott, you only have to deal with one contract, but you're obviously watching both. So by the logic of one deal is possibly going to be the barometer for the other, you'd want to get your deal done first, right?
Right. Well, yes, you want to get it done, but as we know, it takes 2 sides to get a deal done. So yes, you want to get this deal done. You also have to have a good idea of what your other contracts and the ages and the physical health of the players that are building your entire salary cap budget. You have to pay attention to all these things. But the sooner that you get whatever deal you get done now, it's going to be a good deal as long as the player performs to a certain level. Because the reality is this. There's a reason that these teams have started signing $40 million deals, and that's because the owners have really smart financial people in their buildings. They know what the financial forecasts are going to be. They have an idea of what the salary cap is going to look like. They know that it's going up. So if you can fund it now, if you have the cash on hand to do it now, do it as soon as you can because the cost is only going to be greater in the future. Again, gambling money is going to start coming to the NFL. New TV contracts. Every couple of years, the NFL has these short-term deals. They get paid. It's going to increase. And then the teams know exactly where they're going to be. So they know that they can pay this money. They're not going to do a deal that they can't handle.
And I just based off of that, Scott, too, and which the point you alluded to, this is the quarterback position. If you don't pay him, who are you going to go pay? because of supply and demand. And to have quarterbacks like a Joe Burrow, like a Herbert, you're going to pay them whatever it takes to keep them on your roster. And you have to understand that you may have to make some sacrifices at other positions. But when you pay a guy this type of money, you're hoping that he can cover up and maybe make up for some of those star guys that you may not be able to keep on your roster as well.
So in terms of money here, though, I mean, we were talking about Pat Mahomes, and you look, he's moved down that list since he signed his deal, and we were looking at his money and going, wow, I mean, that's a lot of money. So when you look at Herbert and Burrow, Rick, what kind of money would you expect to see here?
Well, I have no doubt they're going to go over the $50 million mark. And I don't know if Lamar Jackson, as he's negotiating these deals, if he's thinking, okay, I can pass Kyler Murray. I don't know if I can get Aaron Rodgers, but I also know looming probably a year from now, because most of these deals get done after 3 years, that what are these two young quarterbacks going to come in? And maybe I should wait, although that's a lot of risk to take from an injury standpoint, and see if I can get over $50 million.
Yeah, and the other thing is this. It'll be interesting to see which one of these young quarterbacks, they should get paid. Aren't any of these younger quarterbacks going to cooperate with the team and say, hey, listen, and this is what Tom Brady used to say, listen, I want to get paid. I want good money, but I don't have to be number one. I want to be in a very respectable area because I want the assurance that you're going to continue to build a good defense on the other side of the ball, that you're going to have good players around me, give me a chance to win a bunch of Super Bowls. It's going to be really interesting to see if any player steps up like that and does it. Now, any player that doesn't, I don't begrudge them at all. They need to make money. They should make money. The money's out there. But it'll be interesting to see which players are the ones that say, hey, you know what, I want to have a bunch of really good players around me, because I understand the owners have the cash, but there is this cap. Who's going to be able to manipulate it so we can have a really, really good football team?
Well, that was something that Steve Keim said today in Kyler Murray's press conference, that, it was a cap-friendly deal in terms of allowing them to kind of be able to continue to build this team. Rick, you were going to add something there.
Yeah, one thing off that, Scott, I would say is from a player perspective, if you're coming out of your rookie deal, you're sure in the heck want to get a big contract. And then if you're in a Tom Brady situation where you've already maybe gotten your first big deal coming out of a rookie contract, that it's maybe you do some sacrificing and give that home team discount to keep some of those players around. But the first time I would be coming out of a rookie contract, if I were a player, I'd want to get paid as much as I can possibly get.
Absolutely. And Rick, that's what Brady did that, but he balanced it really well, because when I was with the Patriots, he had that rookie deal. Remember, it was a 6th-round deal. And I think he had like a $30,000 signing bonus on that first-year deal. And we had his rights. He won that Super Bowl. And he did this deal that at the time Peyton had gotten like 13.5 or 14, and Drew Brees had, leapfrogged him. And Brady sat there and and this was his first real extension, the second contract where they want to get paid and they have to get paid. And I remember him sitting with me, and Don Yee was pulling out his hair because Brady came to me and said, listen, 6 years, $60 million, $10 million a year, I think that's pretty good. If my family and I can't live off that, we've got a problem. And he was still a single guy at the time. So you're right. They do have to go and get the money. But if they trust themselves and believe in themselves, they know that they're going to get, if they're good enough, that third and fourth contract is going to be pretty strong too, Rick.
Hey, I don't think any of these guys are going to be around the $13 million mark or 10.
Yeah, exactly right. How about that?
Yeah, wow. $10 million a season, that's a steal at this point in time when you look at the quarterback position based on the numbers that we've seen. Interesting, too, the comments from Kyler Murray saying, for him it's about winning championships, and he wants to continue to have Arizona build around that. All right, Russell Wilson moved to Denver in a trade, and he's, of course, looking for a new deal after this season. Russ wants in on that big-time money conversation. He's not on that graphic we showed you and not in that top tier yet. Rick, what would your approach be as an executive in giving a new deal to Wilson?
Well, you're going to have to get him under contract because of the draft capital that you gave up. You don't want to give up that much draft capital and only have, I believe he has 2 years left, and maybe is worth or has $52 million still coming his way over the next 2 years. So if you're going to make that commitment to go out and give that draft capital to get a potential future Hall of Famer and a guy that you did that because you expect to get to the Super Bowl with him, you're going to have to back up that Brinks trunk and pay him, which all these top quarterbacks are getting. And I would imagine, again, Scotty, to your point, he doesn't know these guys, and he hasn't been with that organization. And they got new ownership coming in that probably have a pretty good bankroll on what I would use if I were the player. That the new ownership, they should be able to afford X, Y, or Z, which would put him up close to that $50 million range.
Rick, you bring up an excellent point. And the point is, usually when you see these trades that are big-time trades where a player's near the end of a contract, like Russell Wilson was, it usually ends up being a trade and extension signing, right? We're watching right now, Kansas City, you would have expected them to do the same thing with Orlando Brown Jr. It hasn't happened. And because so much draft capital has been given up, as you point out so smartly, Rick, the player knows that they're going to have that team over the barrel because they don't want to have given up all that capital in draft picks in a trade and not spend a lot of money. So the leverage has actually already shifted into the hands of Russell Wilson. And you're right, you talk about new ownership, and we know this. When new owners take over, if you watch the history of new owners, when they have good players, when they have celebrity name players, they generally at the beginning want to jump in and make sure that those celebrity top name star players are paid. So really, I think that Russell's going to have a lot of leverage in this negotiation.
We went through that similar situation back when we traded for Jared Allen, who was in the prime of his career as a pass rusher. We gave up a lot of draft capital to get him, but in order to consummate that deal with him and the agent, we had to also pay him, which was part of the trade. Once we traded for him, and then we were able to get a deal done, because you don't want to get into a situation like Kansas City's in right now where you gave up that draft capital, but you still don't have that player, Orlando Brown, under contract.
All right, last but not least, certainly not least, let's talk about Tom Brady. He's a free agent after this season. Scott, Brady is resetting the market in terms of just being able to play at a certain age in terms of what we see from him. What kind of contract would you expect him to get in terms of what that looks like and what kind of money he'd be looking for?
You know, Jeremy, just knowing Tommy like I know him and knowing his history, and because he's made so much money in so many ways, money has never been the driving force in Tommy's life. It's about championships. He will never and has never been a pig at the trough. And I say that not to set him apart as being this noble person. He gets paid really good money. What he's going to want, again, is to keep winning championships. When he goes to take that next deal, I really think that he'll take something that's in the, he won't force to be top 5. He may not even force to be top 10. He's going to want to get paid a very good amount of money, but also know that he's in a situation where he is absolutely going to win. And he knows that he needs support in order to win. So I think, again, I don't know what the number is, but I don't think he will ever be a pig at the trough.
Two points I want to make off of that, Scott. He's 44 years old, so you're not going to commit a 5-year deal, but you're going to have to pay him. And according to what you said earlier, I expect his range to be maybe $10 million. Is that what you said earlier?
He ain't that sweet.
Would you guys expect him to stay with the Bucs, or do you think he's going to go somewhere else in terms of trying to find a contender?
I would say if the Bucs are a contender, he would very likely stay there. Again, whoever it is, it's going to be a contending team. And my guess is that it'll be a 1-year deal in terms of the reality of it. Now, it may have to be a multi-year deal to bring the cap number down. But to me, I expect Tom is going to go at this age year to year. So again, whoever it is, it will be a contending team.
Yeah, there's no way at 44 years old you want to go into a rebuilding situation. And you have only so many snaps left, although who knows, he can play till he's 54 the way he's been playing. But he'll go to a situation where he knows if he walks in that building and the influence he has, that team has an opportunity to win a Super Bowl.
All right, now it's time for the Performance Multiplier, powered by Liquid IV Hydration Multiplier. Fuel your play. All right, so gentlemen, let's go with a QB that we're not looking at who could fly under the radar this season in terms of multiplying their performance. Rick, let's start with you. Who do you have for us?
Well, I'm going to say Kirk Cousins, just because of Kevin O'Connell coming in. his history with Kirk. I know Kirk has put up a lot of great stats, and I even looked at last year where, we didn't have enough wins to get into the playoffs last year, but the losses we had, he put us in situations to win games. The first game of the year, we were in Cincinnati, lost in overtime when a Dalvin Cook fumble. The next week we go out to Arizona, he puts us in a situation at the end of the game, we miss a 34-yard field goal to win that game at the end. So I know he has grown as a quarterback, but when you reunite him with Kevin O'Connell and with the weapons I think they have around him, if Irv Smith can come back, Dalvin Cook, if he can stay healthy, with Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, I think Kirk has an opportunity to really take off.
I think those are great points, Rick, and I'm right there with you. The name I'm going to talk about is Davis Mills down in Houston. To me, Davis Mills is a very talented quarterback. I loved him coming out. He flew under the radar coming out of Stanford, and I think that it was the first pick that Nick Caserio and the Houston Texans got because, even though it was later because they had traded some other picks away. But to me, Davis Mills is a guy that I know that they really like. I loved his tools coming out. I love his makeup as a quarterback. And I think that Pep Hamilton, the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach, is a terrific young coach who's had a lot of success. He coached Andrew Luck not only in college, but at the Colts. Pep Hamilton knows how to prepare quarterbacks. And to me, Davis Mills, we started to see some things come around the second half of the year last year. The biggest question is going to be is not how well is Davis Mills going to play, it's going to be how is the support cast around him. So he will play well, I think, this year. He just needs to get a lot more help from the people around him.
Former Dolphins and Vikings general manager Rick Spielman and multi-winning executive of the year Scott Pioli giving us that front office look into QB deals to come and QBs we need to keep an eye on this season. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Let's close this out with the MVP odds for this coming season. The MVPs, they always get big contracts. Josh Allen, of course, is the favorite, plus 700. Patrick Mahomes at 8-1. Then you have Tom Brady, 44 years old, at 9-1 to win the MVP. Aaron Rodgers and Justin Herbert rounding out the top 5 at 10-1.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.